Listen close, darling, because this ain't the kind of tale you skim like a Sunday paper. This is the one that rooted deep in my bones, twisted through my nights like kudzu on an old fence post, and finally bloomed into something fierce enough to reclaim what was stolen. Pull up that rocker on the porch, let the evenings settle around you like a worn quilt, and picture this, a Kentucky farm at the tail end of summer, where the air hangs heavy with the scent of ripening apples and secrets rotten just beneath the soil. That's where it started, or ended, depending on how you count the scars. I'm Ellie Hayes, Ellie to friends who stuck around, and to the ghosts that whisper in the wind through the willows. 68 years old, with hands calloused from wrangling fence wire, and a heart that's been plowed under more times than I care to admit. If you've ever loved something so hard it hurts, a man, a child, a patch of earth that holds your every footprint, then you know the ache I'm talking about. The kind that starts as a flutter in your chest and builds to a storm you can't outrun. It was a night like no other, the kind where the sky cracks open and pours out its fury. Thunder rolled in from the Ohio River like God's own temper tantrum, and lightning forked across the black canvas, illuminating the old willow tree that guards our driveway like a weary sentinel. Its branches, long and weeping, have borne witness to 3 generations of Hayes blood, births under its shade, weddings danced in its dappled light, and burials where we'd lay our sorrows at its roots. That tree's older than the farm itself, planted by my great-granddaddy after the war between the states, when he came home with nothing but a limp and a prayer. "Willows bend but don't break," he'd say, like us. I was barreling down that mud-slick county road in my '92 Chevy Silverado, Tom's pride and joy, the one he'd rebuilt engine block by engine block on rainy Sundays. The wipers slapped a frantic rhythm, barely keeping up with the deluge, and my high beams caught glimpses of flooded ditches and startled deer eyes glowing in the dark. I'd been in town, picking up feed at the co-op, when the call came. Sarah, my only girl, her voice all honey and hurry. "Mom, come home quick! Storm's bad and Greg's worried about the roof." Worried. That's what she said. If I'd known then what worried really meant, I'd have turned that truck around and headed for the hills. But blood's thicker than common sense, ain't it? So I pushed on, heart thumping, not from the weather, but from that nagging pull, the one every mother feels when her chick's in the nest. The farm came into view like a half-remembered dream. The big white clapboard house with its wraparound porch sagging just enough to feel lived in. The red barn looming like a steadfast guardian, its doors creaking open to swallow hay bales whole. And beyond, the 80 acres of rolling bluegrass hills dotted with apple orchards that stretched toward the river like fingers reaching for redemption. We'd poured our souls into that land, Tom and me, from the day we said "I do" under a harvest moon. I killed the engine just shy of the willow, gravel crunching under the tires like brittle bones. Rain hammered the roof of the cab, drowning out the world, but not their voices. Oh no, those carried clear as church bells on a still Sunday, slicing through the storm from the porch light's feeble glow. Sarah and Greg, my son-in-law, the golden boy with the city polish and the shark smile, stood shoulder to shoulder, umbrellas forgotten, soaked to the skin, but too deep in their conspiracy to care. I cracked the window, just a sliver, and leaned in, breath held like a guilty secret. "You're absolutely sure she bought the Helping Hand Act?" Greg's voice, that low rumble laced with ambition, the kind that dreams in dollar signs. He was pacing, hands jammed in the pockets of his khakis, the ones he wore to look approachable at his real estate seminars. Sarah's laugh cut sharp, not the bubbly giggle of the girl who'd chased butterflies in these fields, but something harder, honed by years in the suburbs. "Mom? Come on, Greg. She's pushing 70, eyes failing from all those late nights poring over receipts like they're love letters. And Dad's death? It's got her seeing ghosts in every shadow. She thinks I'm here out of the goodness of my heart, preserving the family legacy, as if I'd waste my weekends on this backwater dump." Dump. The word landed like a slap, echoing in my skull. This dump was where she'd learned to walk, her tiny feet toddling through the wildflowers, where Tom taught her to bait a hook on lazy afternoons by the creek, where we'd nursed her through chicken pox and heartbreak, wrapping her in flannel and folktales until dawn. My fingers tightened on the door handle, nails biting into leather, but I stayed put, ears open, heart closing. Greg snorted, a sound wet with rain and contempt. "Perfect. Once we nudge her into signing the deed over, play up the tax burdens, the medical needs. We subdivide. Those developers from Louisville have been salivating over this spot for months. Lake access, historic zoning loopholes. We'll carve it into half-acre lots for weekend warriors from the city. Boom, 7 figures easy. Private tutors for Emma and Jack, that lake house in Gatlinburg, maybe even early retirement. Emma and Jack, my grandbabies with their freckles like cinnamon sprinkles and questions that could melt steel. The thought of their futures, built on my ruins, twisted the knife deeper. But Sarah's reply, that was the gut punch. And Mom, we can't just abandon her completely. The optics, Greg. Family court, the neighbors, they'll talk. Abandon? There it was, ugly and naked. Greg's chuckle rolled like distant thunder. Abandon? Sweetheart, we're not abandoning jack shit. The will's airtight. Everything to you, remember? Tom never updated it after the chemo fogged his brain. Sloppy, but lucky for us. We'll park her in that assisted living joint off I-75, the one with the bingo nights and Jell-O for supper. Cheap, quiet, and far enough she'll fade into the wallpaper. Out of our hair, out of our hair.
I clapped a hand over my mouth, tasting blood where my teeth sank into my lip. Fade into the wallpaper? After 50 years of marriage? 30 of motherhood? And a lifetime of bending without breaking? The truck cab spun, walls closing in like the jaws of a trap. Bile rose, hot and sour, but beneath it all, something shifted. A spark, buried under layers of grief and loyalty, flickered to life. Tom's words echoed in my mind from one of his storytelling nights by the fire. Ellie Burl, when life's got you cornered, don't roar like a lion, smile like a fox, and bite when they least expect it. That spark caught, fanned by the storm's rage. No, they wouldn't get the farm. They wouldn't get me. I'd bend like the willow, but I'd be damned if I'd break. I eased the truck into reverse, silent as a shadow, and vanished into the night. 6 months later, the roots of that decision would upheave everything. But we're not there yet. Oh no, to savor the revenge, you gotta stew in the betrayal first. Let me take you back, way back, to the soil where it all took seed.
Let's rewind the reel, shall we? To 1972, when the world was all bell-bottoms and hope, and I was just Ellie Mae Whitaker, 19 and full of fire, hawking Mama's apple pies at the Boyle County Fair. The air buzzed with cotton candy sweetness and the lowing of livestock, and there he was, Tom Hayes, 20 and strapping, leading his black Angus bull around the ring like it was a Sunday stroll. Tall as a sapling, with hair the color of sun-bleached hay and eyes blue as the river after rain. He caught sight of me behind the booth, flour-dusted apron and all, and sauntered over with that grin that could charm the dew off a daisy. "Miss," he drawled, tipping his hat, "if that pie's half as fine as the baker, I'll take 2 slices, one for now, one for later." I rolled my eyes, but my cheeks burned hotter than the oven coals. We talked till the judges called his number, and by closing time, he was back, pie forgotten, asking me to the barn dance. That night, under strings of paper lanterns in the hayloft, we danced to Merle Haggard and swapped stories like trading cards. He told of his granddaddy's moonshine still hidden in the hollows, of losing his ma young and vowing to build something unbreakable. I confess my dreams of escaping the Whitaker scrap heap, Daddy's gambling debts, Mama's weary sighs, for a place of my own, roots deep and branches wide. "We'll make it," he promised, spinning me till the world blurred. "You and me, Ellie, a farm by the river, kids with your laugh and my stubborn streak." We married 6 months later, in the shadow of that very willow, a sapling then, but already bending graceful. The farm was Tom's inheritance, 200 acres whittled down to 80 by bad luck and worse loans, but we saw potential in every furrow. We worked it like a vow, him tilling dawn to dusk, me tending the orchard and keeping the books in a ledger bound with twine. Summers, we'd harvest apples till our fingers pruned, pressing cider under the stars and dreaming of expansion. A roadside stand, maybe, a pick-your-own setup for families from Lexington. Sarah came along in 75, a squalling bundle with Tom's eyes and my fighter's chin. Pregnancy was rough. Bed rest in the hayloft, Tom's hands steady on my belly as he read aloud from dog-eared westerns. When she arrived, all pink and furious, the willow seemed to sigh in welcome, its leaves rustling like applause. We named her after Tom's ma, and from the start she was our son, chasing chickens at 3, riding the tractor at 6, her laughter echoing across the hills like a hymn. Raising her was a tapestry of small miracles and hard lessons. Remember the summer of '82 when the drought cracked the earth like old leather? Crops withered, the bank letters piled up, but Sarah, 7 and fierce, organized a farm fair with neighborhood kids, charging nickels for pony rides and pie slices. We scraped by on her ingenuity, and Tom would scoop her up and declare, "That's my girl," turning lemons into lemonade and dirt into gold. But as she grew, so did the world beyond our fences. High school brought cheerleading, proms, and whispers of bigger things. College at UK, full ride on scholarships where she majored in business, minored in dreams of boardrooms and city lights. "Mom," she'd call from her dorm, voice crackling over the line. "This place is magic, but it's small. I want to build empires, not just barns." I beamed through the pride, ignoring the pang. Tom felt it too. "Our bird's fledging, Ellie. Let her fly." But when she brought Greg home senior year, something shifted. He was polished, from a Louisville family of lawyers and realtors, with a jawline sharp as a contract clause and talk of vertical integration over Sunday supper. Sarah lit up around him, eyes sparkling like the creek after a storm. They married in '02 under the willow again, now a giant, branches arching like a cathedral, with 300 guests and a string quartet. The reception spilled into the barn, fairy lights twinkling, and as they cut the cake, Tom pulled me aside. "He's slick, darling. Watch her close." I did. At first,
Emma arrived in '04, a carbon copy of Sarah, with curls like wild vines. Jack followed in '06, all mischief and Tom's grin. Weekends they'd visit, chaos of sippy cups and crayon walls, and the farm came alive again. Sarah would wander the orchards, baby on hip, reminiscent. Remember when we built that fort in the big apple tree, Mom? One day I'll bring the kids back here full time, make it a legacy. Legacy, that word was her favorite then. But life has a way of eroding promises, like rain on river rock. Greg's career took off, flipping foreclosures into fortunes, and they moved to a McMansion in the suburbs, all granite counters and no soul. Visits dwindled, holidays squeezed between PTA meetings and soccer practices. Calls grew shorter, laced with busyness. Tom's cancer hid in 23, a shadow, creeping slow. Pancreatic, the doc said, aggressive, unforgiving. We fought it farm style. Chemo in the mornings, tractor work in the afternoons, Sarah flying in for support. She'd hold his hand, tears streaming, promising, "Daddy, we'll beat this. The farm will be waiting."
But as Tom's strength faded, so did the masks. One night, in the dim glow of his hospital room, he gripped my hand, voice a rasp. "Ellie, the will, everything to Sarah, but the mineral rights. Coal under the West 40. I leased him quiet. Royalties to you, life estate. Don't tell her yet. Ambition's a double-edged plow." I nodded, throat tight. He passed a week later, under a January sky gray as grief. The farm felt hollow, echoes in the halls, wind sighing through empty rooms. The funeral was packed, neighbors in their Sunday best, eulogies thick with "Tom was the salt of the earth." Sarah clung to me, sobbing into my shoulder. "What do we do now, Mom? It's just us." Just us. I held her, believing it. The will reading followed in Hargrove's musty office, the same desk where Tom and I signed our mortgage 30 years prior. To Sarah, Hargrove intoned, "The farm in full, with love and trust." I got the house contents, a small annuity, simple, clean. Or so it seemed. The cracks showed quick. Sarah and Greg moved in temporarily to help with the transition. Their SUV clogged the driveway, Emma and Jack's toys scattered like landmines. At first it was sweet. Family dinners, Greg fixing the loose porch step, Sarah baking burnt biscuits. But then the advice started. "Ellie," Greg said one evening, ledger open on the kitchen table, "these numbers, they're not sustainable. Property taxes up 40% with the new assessments. That old combine? Junk. Time for a lease." I sipped my coffee, black as my mood. "We've scraped by worse. Droughts, floods. Tom's annuity covers the basics." Sarah leaned in, eyes soft but calculating. "Mom, think bigger. The east parcel. That slope's perfect for vineyards. Upscale, touristy. We could partner with a winery out of Napa." Partner. The words stuck like burrs. I smiled, patted her hand. "Sounds fancy, but this is apple country, not grape. Tradition matters." Tradition. They laughed it off then, but the seed was planted. Over weeks, the pressure built like a pot about to boil over. Bills discovered. Back taxes I'd never seen. Equipment repairs inflated triple. Greg took the books off my plate, his laptop humming late into the night. Sarah handled correspondence, her phone glued to her ear with realtors and investors. One crisp October morning, as leaves turned the orchard to fire, I stumbled on it. Out for a walk to clear my head, Tom's grave under the oak called to me daily. I detoured to the barn where Greg's truck idled, door ajar. Voices drifted from inside, low and urgent. The power of attorney? She signed it at the hospital right after Tom's last round, distraught, half out of her mind. "It's gold, Sarah. We extend it, control the trust, push the sale." Sarah's reply, hushed but eager. "God, the payout. That developer's offer, $2.5 million for the whole kit. We keep the mineral skim if we play it right, flip the surface for quick cash." Mineral skim. So they knew or suspected. My boots scuffed gravel, and silence fell. I backed away, heart hammering, but not before catching Greg's curse. Shit, was that her? I fled to the house, feigning a migraine, and locked myself in the study. Tom's old den, walls lined with seed catalogs and faded ribbons from county fairs. There in the bottom drawer, I found the key to it all, a folder marked contingencies, Tom's handwriting steady despite the pain. Deeds, leases, the mineral rights transfer, notarized, untouchable. And a note, for when the wolves circle. Love, T. Wolves. That's what they were, circling, salivating. That night, as rain lashed the windows, a prelude to the big storm, I sat by the window, watching shadows dance. Sleep evaded me, replaced by plans. Revenge wasn't rage. It was roots regrowing, stronger, deeper.
The days following were a tightrope walk, smiles over breakfast, suspicions simmering beneath. Greg ramped up the charm offensive. Family meeting tonight, Ellie. Let's map out the future. Sarah baked, successfully this time, apple crisp from our harvest, her hugs lingering a beat too long. The meeting was in the living room, fire crackling in the hearth Tom built with his own hands. Emma and Jack played on the rug, oblivious, building block towers that toppled like empires. Greg unrolled blueprints on the coffee table, glossy renders of Hayes estates, cul-de-sacs winding through what was now wild meadow, McMansions with 3-car garages overlooking the river. Visionary, right? He beamed, pointer finger tracing cul-de-sac curves. Eco-friendly, community-focused. Your legacy, Ellie, preserved in brick and mortar. Sarah nodded, eyes gleaming. And the proceeds, security for all of us. You could travel, Mom. See Paris like you always wanted. Paris. I'd mentioned it once, offhand, after a Lifetime movie. Now it dangled like bait. I traced a finger over the blueprint, feigning interest. Pretty, but the willow. Where's it go? Greg blinked. The tree? Central Park feature, maybe. Landscaping. Central Park. I bit back a laugh, bitter as chicory. And the orchard? Tom's grave? Memorial garden, Sarah supplied quick. Tasteful. Tasteful. The word hung, and I let the silence stretch, watching their facades crack. I'll think on it, I said, finally, folding the plans with care. Family first, after all. They bought it, or pretended to, but I saw the glances, the texts buzzing under the table. That night, alone in bed, the house groaning under wind's assault, I penned my first counter-move. A letter to Hargrove. Review estate docs. Suspect irregularities. Discreet. His reply came swift. Meet tomorrow. Bring coffee. Hargrove's office was a time capsule. Oak desk scarred by decades, files stacked like ancient monoliths. Over black brew and chipped mugs, I laid it out. The power of attorney overreach, the phantom debts, the codicil whispers. He leaned back, pipe unlit between teeth. Ellie, Tom's will was clear, but POA slippery. Sarah signed extensions without your nod? That's fraud territory. But proof? I slid Tom's folder across. He pored over it, bushy brows climbing. Minerals. Smart man, Tom. Untouchable. Federal lease. Royalties direct to you. But the trust Greg's pushing? We can challenge. Injunction first, audit second. Injunction. The word tasted like justice, sharp and sweet. Cost? He waved it off. Pro bono for Tom. But, Ellie, this'll get ugly. Family rifts don't mend easy. Ugly. I nodded. Willows bend, Mr. H. They don't break. We filed quietly, a whisper in the courts that echoed loud in my resolve. Meanwhile, the farm became my fortress. Neighbors sensed the shift. Drop-ins increased. Widow Jenkins with her quilt squares. Old Man Wilkins with tales of his own land grabs. Fight smart, girl. They'll come at you with lawyers. Hit 'em with community. Community. Yes. I started small. A newsletter. Hayes Farm Herald. Mimeographed on the old press in the barn. Stories of Tom's harvests. Recipes from my mama. Calls to preserve our rural heart. Mailed to every box in the county. Word spread. The local rag picked it up. Widows stand. Hayes Farm faces urban onslaught. Reporters called. Neighbors rallied. And Sarah? Her calls turned frantic. Mom, what's this about a lawsuit? We're family. Family doesn't forge, I replied. Cool. Voice steady as the river. Come see for yourself. She did. Storming in with Greg. Faces thunderclouds. The kitchen confrontation was a masterpiece of calm fury. I served tea, chamomile, soothing, as Lydia Voss, my new lawyer, sat composed in the wingback. Explain, she demanded, slamming her purse down.
Lydia opened her briefcase, papers fanning like cards in a poker game. Power of attorney abuse, fabricated debts, trust manipulation. We have evidence, bank records, witness statements from the hospital clerk who saw the extensions. Greg paled. This is blackmail. Extortion. Lydia's smile was a blade. Civil suit, Mr. Hayes, but criminal if we push. Sarah turned to me, eyes pleading. Mom, why? We were helping. Helping? I stood, voice rising like yeast in dough. I heard you, Sarah. The willow, the rain, ship her off, fade away. After everything, the fevers I sat through, the dreams I deferred so you could fly. Tears welled, but anger flashed too. You don't get it. Greg's firm collapsed, market crash, debts up to our eyeballs, the kids' college, the mortgage. This farm was our lifeline. Lifeline. Pulled from my drowning hands, and I was the anchor to cut loose. The room spun into shouts, accusations flying like barbs. Emma peeked in, wide-eyed. I scooped her up, shushing soft. Go play, sugar. Grandma's got this. They left in a huff, but the seed of doubt was sown. Court dates loomed, but I didn't wait idle. Revenge's second act, the public play. I organized Harvest Home Days, a weekend bash to celebrate the farm's roots. Invites to the Historical Society, the PTA, even that developer rep for irony's sake. The day dawned golden, air crisp with cider steam and fried dough. Fiddlers sawed lively on the porch, kids hayriding to shrieks of joy. I wore my Sunday dress, hair pinned with Tom's old buckle, greeting folks with hugs and hot mugs. Welcome home, I'd say, and mean it. Sarah and Greg arrived mid-afternoon, uninvited, stiffer than starched collars amid the revelry. What is this circus? Greg muttered, dodging a pie toss game. Circus? I linked arms with Jenkins, laughing. This is life, son, the kind you can't buy with blueprints. The paper's photographer snapped us. Me, front and center, Willow framed behind like a crown. Headline, Hayes Heirloom Lives On. Community rallies for legacy land. Developers called, offers withdrawn. PR nightmare, they grumbled. Court came in December, snow blanketing the hills like forgiveness deferred. The judge, a craggy veteran named Harlan, heard Lydia's case. Exhibits of forged docs, emails from Greg's consultants, kickbacks disguised as fees. Sarah testified, voice breaking, I love my mom. I thought we were saving her. Greg stonewalled, but his cross-examination crumbled under Lydia's scalpel. Verdict, trust dissolved, POA revoked, restitution for misappropriated funds. $50K, pocket change to them, but principal to me. They appealed, of course, but by then the farm was fortified. Volunteers rebuilt the pump. Grants flowed for historic preservation. And the royalties? First check arrived Christmas Eve, $25K, Tom's gift from the grave. The holidays were the turning point. Raw, real, redemptive. Snow fell thick, blanketing sins. The kids arrived first, sledding down the meadow, their whoops piercing the quiet. Sarah pulled up last, Greg's truck loaded like a retreat. Dinner was turkey and trimmings, tension thick as gravy, toasts skirted edges. To family, Greg mumbled. To roots, I countered. After, by the willow, strung with lights now, a beacon, Sarah and I walked. Mom, she whispered, breath fogging. I was wrong, scared, greedy. Can you forgive? Forgive. The word weighed heavy. Forgiveness ain't free, girl. It's work. Help me tend this place. Learn the ledgers, mend the fences, earn your place. She nodded, tears freezing on lashes. Greg joined later, hammer in hand for the barn repairs. I'm in, Ellie, if you'll have me. Months unfolded slow, arguments flaring, apologies mending. The Sarah took classes in agribusiness, Greg traded flips for fixes. The farm greened, grandkids grew, and I stepped into elder stateswoman, stories my currency. Revenge wasn't ruin, it was rebirth. The willow still bends, but now it shelters us all, bent but unbroken. Hold your roots tight, darling. They might just save ya.